Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strikers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strikers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Welcome to the fastest paced soccer show in SoCal. This is Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System, covering all the week's news, highlights, and more from LAFC, the Los Angeles Galaxy, Angel City FC, Orange County Soccer Club, and of course, the Major Arena Soccer League's very own Empire Strikers. Hello again and welcome. I'm J.R. Liebert, affectionately known as The Scarf, and we've got a full house in front of you. My co-host from Defenders of the Bank podcast, one Christian Philly Philemon, from La Cuna Galaxiana podcast, Rob Halon, and number one in our hearts, and he's right up there in the corner, my man Tim Kolatz, Soccer in 60 regular. Gentlemen, how are you?
Couldn't be better, JR. The Scarf. How are you, baby?
I love it. I wanted all three of you to talk at the same time just to see how that would work, like a Brady Bunch kind of thing. It's beautiful.
How was your story?
No, we have so much to talk about tonight. An incredible week in Southland soccer. Obviously, the Sonny hat trick may come up once or twice. I don't know. But there's plenty to talk about here on Soccer in 60, including, by the way, an incredible interview that we have with Iceland international Sveindís Jónsdóttir of Angel City. But first, let's check in with our friends over at Omnitrans. In partnership with the Empire Strikers, experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strikers. Don't miss out on any of the excitement and make every moment count at Toyota Arena. Ride with Omnitrans to your next Empire Strikers match. Guys, we mentioned it. Sveindís Jónsdóttir, an incredible interview from Angel City. But first, let's get to talking about LAFC, because not one but two matches that we want to make sure that we cover. And gentlemen, not one but two hat tricks this week. I got to say, LAFC looks like they've got their groove back. Philly, two hat tricks in 2 nights. Let's talk about the first one. First, the 4-2 win over the San Jose Earthquakes in Santa Clara. And, I mean, before people got to their seats, it was 3-0. Denis Bouanga finished off the hat trick. And let's talk about the significance, Philly. That hat trick not only propelling Denis Bouanga back into the Golden Boot race, but now drawing him at least level up until that point with LAFC's legend, Carlos Vela.
Yeah, so many milestones on the horizon for Denny the Destroyer. I mean, at that point, he was only 2 goals away from being the first person in MLS history to record 3 straight seasons of 20 goals. Unbelievable. Denny was an absolute destroyer in that game. Denny would just... I've said it on our show plenty of times. My favorite LAFC player goes box to box with his hair on fire, scoring goals, assisting. We've also determined that he's got quite a number of dime distributions throughout his career. But he wasn't the one that got things started on that day against the Smurfs in Levi Stadium, which, oh, by the way, you were there. Finally, at least one of us got to witness an LAFC win in the home of the 49ers. But Son Heung-min, Sonny, baby, 53 seconds is all it took. 3rd fastest goal in LAFC history. Nobody was ready for it. We were ready for it. I lost my voice, and I was singing and screaming at home. You were in the building. What was that like?
It was incredible. I have to tell you, there were 50,000 fans there, about 10,000 LAFC supporters, maybe about 15,000 San Jose Earthquake supporters, and then everybody else. They were either wearing a Korean national team jersey, a Tottenham Hotspur jersey, something that had to do with Son Heung-min. And when he got subbed out in the 80th minute, it was a mass exodus from that stadium. It was unreal. Timmy K, I got to ask you, my man, as a relative neutral to the LAFC versus Galaxy debate here in Los Angeles, when you get to watch an attack like that, with Son Heung-min and Denis Bouanga. And now what we have seen is Steve Cherundolo moving to pretty much just two up top, right? They're running some combination of like a 5-3-2 with a little hybrid action from Timmy Tillman. Being able to watch these two, the chemistry that they have created so early, Timmy K. A lot of people have compared it to you and I here on Soccer in 60, but incredible chemistry between these two. Timmy?
Well, I'll pinky hug you later, buddy. The idea that Son has come in and connected with Denis so quickly is just ridiculous. It's like watching the guys from the late 70s, early 80s, Kanaya and Pele play together and some of these other guys. And to watch that happen so quickly has been it's incredible for LA as a whole, not so much the Galaxy, but it's incredible for LA as a whole because now LAFC is back in that conversation about making that very deep run in the playoffs this year, Scarf.
Yeah, I mean, it was Lloyd Sam that said it at the end of this last broadcast. We might as well transition over to the 4-1 win over Real Salt Lake that happened on Wednesday. Another match win on the road. I got to ask, Rob, I know, obviously, you're co-host of La Cuna Galaxiana podcast, so maybe a little bit of a different perspective on all of this, but something that really propelled Galaxy to the title last year is something that LAFC have started to do now. Our first 2-game win streak on the road. Talk about how difficult it is, Rob, and how important it is when you're on the road, not just to bring home a point, not just to bring home a result, but all 3 points.
It's massive. I mean, LAFC is doing what they need to do by taking care of their home and winning there. But then additionally, they're going on the road and they're not only winning, but they're winning convincingly. They're against San Jose, like Philly said, they were 3 up really quickly before people had a chance to sit down. Even this one, they were 2 up really quickly as well against Real Salt Lake. And you're seeing an LAFC team that's rounding into form at the very best possible time with just 6 games left to go in their slate before the playoffs. Both these players are combining incredibly well together. It's a good time to be an LAFC fan because you're seeing a team that's not only getting into form, but is probably going to get even a little bit more dangerous by the time the playoffs roll around.
Yeah, one can only hope. I mean, the thing that's really helped LAFC, obviously, you kind of touched on it, and I know, Philly, you talked about it, in the San Jose win, not just scoring 4 goals, that will help every single time out, but Sonny scoring 53 seconds in. In this next match against RSL, Sonny scoring 2 minutes and change in. Philly, what does it do? We've talked time and time again about Steve Cherundolo's record when LAFC scores first. And now you're not just scoring first, but you're scoring very, very early in these contests. What can that do for these Steve Cherundolo-led teams? Because we've seen the record now, and now we're being able to put our teams up even earlier in these matches.
Yeah, it certainly changes the focus of the plan. On a team like RSL, we anticipated that LAFC would be more possession-based. But after scoring so many goals so quickly, they obviously are going to fall into a different pattern with the other team playing on their heels. I mean, the confidence obviously is there right now. Coming and finding these goals as quickly as they do is a positive thing because historically it's shown that LAFC rarely lose anytime they score the first goal of the game. Be it at home, be it on the road. It's a big deal when LAFC gets out there and goes in transition. And we've talked about how they've taken their foot off the gas. In some cases, they've conceded goals for not necessarily paying attention. But a game like today, they obviously showed that they could continue to press forward. But you boys just mentioned it. I think the most important thing that we have to factor in to LAFC's success is how they've done on the road. With the win that they had against RSL, that's their 5th win on the road to go along with the 3 losses and 6 draws. They have not lost outside of BMO Stadium since April the 5th against the Houston Dynamo. That's why LAFC is firing on all cylinders right now. And the addition of Son, incredible. 5 goals in 6 matches. In 6 matches, he's already surpassed what Olivier Giroud did in his entire time here.
Yeah, that didn't take long. Also, he looks a little sprier than Olivier did, although now that he's back in Ligue 1, playing a little bit better is Giroud. Rob, I have to ask you, obviously one of the focal points of the Galaxy for the rest of the season is seeing what you've got with the young guys or seeing what you've got with your depth, all those fringe pieces, right? They likely know who a lot of their 11 are for next season, but this is about building depth, building experience. What we've been able to see with LAFC over these last several matches, they've had to do it because of injury, right? We've had Igor Jesus out, Aaron Long out, and you've had guys step up, like a Ryan Porteous, for example, a Matthew Chonier, who we were able to get at the deadline, and now the Irishman Andy Morin coming on and getting solid minutes too. What does it mean for a club like LAFC to build this type of depth as they look towards the playoffs?
Well, you see a team like Seattle, who most likely will be facing off against an LAFC in the playoffs, and what they've been able to do to weather the storm of injuries that have happened over there. And it's massive that LAFC lost the captain Aaron Long, was able to have people plug in and do pretty well, and now they've been able to fortify even more, and they're getting contributions out of these players that, you know, let's face it, you can't just win a title with your first 11. You got to have at least a good 15, 16, if not 17 players that can instantly come in and make a contribution. So the fact that Moran has come in embedded, and the fact that the defenders have been able to weather the storm and not concede a tremendous amount of goals in Aaron Long's absence, speaks volumes to what they're going to be able to do in the postseason. If they can keep getting those contributions from these players, it's going to be a deep run.
Yeah, we're hoping, at least in LAFC land, that it'll be a deep run. I got to ask you, Tim, one of the big news announcements over the last week was the extension for Sergi Palencia for LAFC, signing him through 2028 with options for 29 and 30. For those that have followed the club, and maybe for just casuals that follow MLS, he has been one of, if not the best left backs in all of MLS, and certainly the best defender on LAFC over these last 2 seasons. Tim, what does it mean to be able to lock up a guy like that for the next at least 2 or 3 seasons?
It allows that consistency that every team is looking for. You've got to have the consistent back line, and when you lose a guy like Aaron Long, you've got to fill that hole somehow and keep that back line intact. And when you have a guy like Sergei Palencia, who is one of the, if not the best defenders in the league, to be on your back line for the next 5 years, that speaks volumes to what LAFC wants to be, where they're going, and how they're going to play, not only this year, but for the next several years.
And look, we've got that redundancy at certain positions. We've seen Ryan Hollingshead and Artem Smolyakov essentially changing out for each other time and time again. But I don't know who they've got behind Sergi Palencia that could even begin to replicate the type of grit and the type of hustle that we see week in and week out from him. Philly, real quick before we head on over and talk about Angel City, LAFC plays RSL in just 4 or 5 days. Did they empty the tank a little bit too much in Sandy, Utah, or will they have plenty left over?
I mean, to come back at home, obviously, with the 22,000 and 3252 behind them, did they empty out the tank? No. I view LAFC as being a team capable of still scoring 3 or more at home. And now at this point, they kind of have an advantage, if you will, against RSL. Certainly a mental advantage. RSL Definitely has plenty to fight for this season, but one thing that we can say, in particular after the beatdown that LAFC gave them the other night, RSL does not stand for Real Salt Lake. RSL stands for really sucks losing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for RSL. Also unfortunate, we're going to say bye to Rob for just a few minutes, but we're going to have Rob back on for Galaxy Talk in just a little bit. Thanks to Rob Halon, member of the La Cuna Galaxiana podcast. It's time to talk Angel City Football Club. Look, it was another rough one for Angel City. First and foremost, in about 7 minutes, we've got an incredible interview with Sveindís Jónsdóttir. She did a wonderful job despite some technical difficulties. So we're very excited to welcome Sveindís Jónsdóttir onto the show via an interview in just about 7 minutes. Another tough loss, though, for Angel City, and they've kind of been mounting here and there. Unfortunately, a bad time to have a 2-match losing streak. They lose to the Courage 2-1 last Saturday. I got to tell you, first and foremost, guys, a 9:30 a.m. start may have had something to do with it. 9:30 a.m. Pacific. My goodness. They were down 2-0 before even the 20-minute mark. So maybe they weren't even ready yet. Maybe they were still getting out of bed, still getting their legs under them. But it was a very rough start for Alex Strauss and company. But look, there was also a little bit of tough luck, some porous defending. We had Sarah Gordon deflect in a shot for the Courage. And then you had a deflected cross that, found an oncoming Courage player for their second goal. A little bit unlucky, a little bit of poor defending. That first half, they looked slow. They looked lethargic. Tim, do you think it was the 9:30 start, or do you think maybe Alex Strauss didn't have these ladies as prepared as they needed to be for the Courage?
We talk about this a lot about the early starts for the West Coast teams going to the East Coast teams. You know what? You're a professional athlete. Wake up earlier, have your breakfast, eat your Wheaties, put an energy drink in you. I think that a lot of this has to fall on the coach. You can give maybe 10, 15% to the players, but the coach has really got to get the ladies fired up, ready to go, and they have to be ready to go when that kickoff is 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 West Coast time. Maybe they're still getting used to a lot of the intricacies of Alex Strauss's system, and Sveindís talks about this a little bit. I won't give up the ghost too much, but I think that Strauss has got to put this on himself for them coming out and being lethargic for 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. Philly, we talked about it, a rough time for a 2-match losing streak. But they did have some things to build on, a better second half, although, you can't look at any part of that match and really feel like Angel City had control of maybe 4 or 5 minutes at a time. But our interviewee, Sveindís Jónsdóttir, in the 88th minute, gets a nice little tap-in goal from the top of the 6th. Beautiful combination play. Angel City hopefully giving themselves something to build on there in that second half performance.
Yeah, and maybe this is what opens things up for Jónsdóttir, because she had mentioned in the interview, I guess I'll bury that lead now that I said it, that she should have scored even beforehand. So now the confidence is there. You finally get that first one behind you, and you start to move forward. She gave the team a chance, but obviously not enough time to equalize. And the one thing that we could all agree on is the consistency issues that Angel City has had. They've been erratic. They've had some strong performances, but they've also had trouble closing out matches or even responding to early setbacks and coming from behind as they did. They had to chase the game from the very beginning. What makes it even worse, though, is obviously where they are as far as playoff positioning is concerned. They still have an opportunity, and they just remain outside of the top spots. But look, they just can't afford any more slip-ups. For the NC Courage, what did they do? They snapped away, I believe it was a 7-game winless streak. You can't lose to teams like that while hoping to climb up the playoff rankings. They're going to go and play the Washington Spirit later on today. Their margin of error is razor thin, and that's the problem with the consistency in these last 2 results.
They've made it even tougher for themselves with that loss to the Courage, because the Courage came in behind them in the playoff race. The Courage came in 1 point and 1 place behind Angel City. So now they've got to climb, what is this now? 3 teams just to get into the playoffs. The nice part is, while they are sitting 9th, they are just several points back of 4th. Everything is still so congested. Angel City currently sitting 11th, but just 3 points back of a playoff spot. So there's still plenty to play for. But let's talk about the big important part there, Tim, of their schedule. 4 of their final 6, including this match coming up against the Spirit, 4 of their final 6 matches at BMO Stadium. If they've ever needed it, Tim, it is time for some home cooking.
Absolutely on this one. And, it's a tough road to climb with the Spirit coming in at 6-1-3 on the road.
Yeah.
Philly talked about it with LAFC about how well they play on the road. The Spirit don't lose on the road. Well, just once out of 10 games. But having that home cooking, having a lot more training at their own facility and not having to travel across the country, which is brutal for all of these athletes. You know, when you're flying 4,000 miles each, one way, and you got to sometimes take 2 plane trips. But I think that having this home cooking will actually help and give them a little bit more of a push into the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, they welcome Trinity Rodman into BMO Stadium, so it's always fun to see these superstars of women's soccer. It would have been billed as Alyssa Thompson versus Trinity Rodman, but man, there are some salty fans of Angel City on Twitter, on social media, still talking about that loss of Alyssa. But look, they just need a win to be able to put themselves back in playoff contention. But it is going to be very, very tough against the second best team in all of NWSL this season in the Washington Spirit. We, again, are going to bring you the interview with Sveindís Jónsdóttir. It was a little bit of a shorter interview. We had some technical issues, but we absolutely hope to have Sveindís back on. She was incredible. There will be a part 2 at some point down the road. But for now, let's throw it over to Sveindís Jónsdóttir and part 1 of her interview.
Our guest is an attacker who recently joined Angel City. At 24, she is one of the elite young players in the NWSL. She has over 50 caps with Iceland and has already spent 4 years at VfL Wolfsburg, with whom she won the German League and 2 domestic cups. And all that after she won the 2021 Icelandic Women's Footballer of the Year. Having scored in the Women's Euros, she just scored her first goal for Angel City FC. It is such a joy to have with us Sveindís Jónsdóttir. Sveindís, welcome to Soccer in 60.
Thank you so much. Wow. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you on. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. So yeah, let's get right into it. When Angel City head coach Alex Strauss first came in, he empathized that it took a lot to pry him away from Bayern Munich, where he was in a very good situation, having a lot of success. And that got Gunnar and I thinking that it couldn't have been easy for you to leave Wolfsburg, where you had also done very well and won several trophies. Like, how did the opportunity with Angel City come about, and what was it like, or what was it about the club that made it feel like the right move for you?
I think for me, it was time to leave Wolfsburg. I'd been there for almost 4 years, and I was just looking for a change. This was a big change, so I just got really excited hearing that Angel City wanted to sign me. So I just, took the chance and flew, left here. And I'm just really happy that I did it. It's been great being here. And I'm just, always really happy to be on the pitch with the girls.
I'm sure you don't miss the weather in Wolfsburg, and are enjoying it very much here in Los Angeles. I was going to say Germany, we're not in Germany.
No, yeah, that's really true. It's a bit better here.
At this point, you've now played a few games with Angel City. Now, international players often talk about how different things are in the NWSL. Like, what's your experience been like so far in terms of like the crazy travel, tactics, style of play, and how competitive all the games are? And how does all that compare to playing in the German Bundesliga?
It is like a lot of travel. We have to fly to every game, and that's a bit different from in Germany. We flew to, I think, two games or something a season in Germany, so that's the biggest difference, the travel. But I think in Germany there are like 2-3 good teams that win every single game. So you have when I played in Wolfsburg, we had like 4 maybe really hard games every season. So that's the biggest difference to here. I think all the teams can win like any game. Everything is so competitive, and I think that's the most fun thing about it, to have like good games every single week. And of course the travel is hard. The away games are so much harder than the home games, because our home fans give us a lot, like so much extra power. So playing at home is just great in the BMO Stadium. It's just amazing.
Now, we mentioned, coming back to Alex Strauss real quick, we mentioned him at the top. He famously has a very elaborate philosophy and approach to the game, and I can see you smirking a little bit. Riley Tiernan and Sarah Gordon did the same thing when they talked about it, and they kind of talked about his elaborate PowerPoint presentations. And they also hinted, and then Alex Strauss confirmed that it kind of became a little overwhelming early on, and that he kind of had to pump the brakes for a second. How comfortable at this point do you feel with everything, all the new things that you've been exposed to, and where do you feel the team is at in terms of internalizing all of that?
Yeah, I think for Alex to come in, he has a lot of information. He wanted to do things differently. So the meetings and trainings on the pitch had to be longer because there was just so much to cover and so much for us to learn that he wanted to show us. So for me, it's like, I don't know, it's just necessary. So we are all like really, really open to learn. And if it has to be a 1.5 hour meeting, we'll just sit there and get all the information that we need, you know. And I think that's also really cool here, that everyone's willing to learn new things and hear out what he has to say. And he's also open for all of our if we have any ideas for him, he's always open to take that in and see if he can work with that as well. But it's been great. He's done a lot already for us. I think we've become really, really good as a team. And if we just make everything perfect, I know it's not possible to make everything perfect in football, but if we get all these things that he's trying to show us and do them well in every game, I think it will be really hard to stop. So we're still fixing and trying to make everything perfect in every single training, and putting that on the pitch. So it will be really hard to stop in the future.
You mentioned the future. Let's quickly hop back to this past weekend just for a second. I know it's not super fun having lost that game, but first of all, congrats on scoring your first goal in the NWSL. Obviously, the result a little disappointing, and somewhat reflected the game stats. I kind of revisited those again before the interview. After being down by 2 at the break, the good thing is you guys put up a fight in the second half. What's your take on how the game played out in the end tactically, and why it wasn't quite enough to come away with something?
Yeah, I think we didn't compete in the first 20 minutes. We were 2-0 down after, like, I don't know how long, 20 minutes, probably something like that. And that's just really bad. It's hard to come back from. But I think we showed that we can actually. I think we were the better team in the second half. But us just not being there in the first 20 minutes is just, it killed us. And that's something that is not possible in this league. Teams will then just roll over us and score from every mistake we do. So we just didn't do it easy for ourselves, not being there in the first 20 minutes. And I think we still tried. We never give up, and I think this team has shown that we believe that we can go and score goals. It's just the execution, in front of the goal. Myself, like, I should have scored a few goals before I scored my first goal now. I had a few games that I could have scored 2-3 goals because I got in good situations and could have put it in the back of the net, but I didn't. So I'm happy that I scored in this game, and I hope it will just help me get more goals.
All right, guys, there you have it. The goal scorer from their last match, Sveindís Jónsdóttir. An excellent job on the interview there. Let's talk about National Core. National Core is one of the nation's largest nonprofit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strikers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. And to learn more about National Core and their mission, head on over to nationalcore.org. This is the fun part of the episode for me anyway, guys, because this is the Israel Cisse appreciation portion of the episode. And look, we are very, very lucky, Tim, we are very lucky to have on the voice of the Empire Strikers, one Christian Philly Philemon. He was able to call every home match of Izzy Cisse's end of his career these last several years, and it has been an incredible career. Philly, with Izzy Cisse calling it a career at the end of this last season, what was it like to be able to say that you were calling the last, I don't know, two dozen or so matches in Izzy Cisse's career?
I mean, look, it was an honor. I love Izzy. He was one of the first players for the Ontario Fury / Empire Strikers that I interviewed, that I got along with. His energy, his smile, it's infectious. When he walks into a room, things light up. I mean, you can see his smile ear to ear from across the hallway, across the turf. He's such a positive and beautiful human being. And if you go through his history, his story, from where he started up, leaving war-torn Sierra Leone to finding his way, playing for the LA Galaxy and having a locker right next to David Beckham shortly after he got done with his senior year at the IMG Academy, and then the career he had afterwards. It was just fantastic to be able to just talk about that and highlight it. I mean, Izzy obviously is an older player at 30, mid-30s, playing indoor. The shelf life can only be so long. I mean, the kid started out as a forward in the beginning of his career and had to come back as a defender because, well, you lost the step from time to time. But what he didn't lose was his heart and his desire to win. His final game at Toyota Arena was a very emotional one. So emotional for him. In fact, he got injured really quickly in that game and couldn't play the rest of it. But I was there at the end when we celebrated him at the Ontario International Airport Hotel. Just talking about his career. I mean, he's done a lot of things. He basically is employee number one in that organization. I mean, he's been there longer than most of the furniture has been there, even Toyota Arena. I love his story. I loved him as a person. I was excited to call his games as a player, and he had a hell of a career. He's going to go down as one of the, if not the most important person in the club's history just because of his tenure and what he's done. The thing that sucks is we couldn't reward him with a trophy. Came really close in 2021, but I mean, that's dems the breaks, I guess you can say.
Yeah, it's tough not being able to get him a trophy, but Philly, you spoke to this a little bit ago when you said he came off injured in his last match, but there's something to be said about literally leaving everything you had out there on the pitch. And Tim, you followed Southland soccer for the past few decades now, and a big name in all of that, regardless of where he played, whether it was down in Orange County, whether it was for the Galaxy, or obviously in the Inland Empire for Ontario Fury and then Empire Strikers. Being able to watch Izzy Cisse throughout the course of his career, what was that like for you, Tim?
Well, I think one of the neat things about it is just how he went, and Philly mentioned it, he's always got this huge heart, and he's just got this great demeanor about him, but his smile is electric. He just walks into a room, his smile, I mean, you can't help but just love the guy without ever having met him. And watching him play across the Southland at multiple different arenas and pitches and stadiums, and playing with Beckham and watching him, because when Beckham came to town, as soon as I heard about it, I called up for season tickets. So to see him playing on the Galaxy pitch, super fun. You watch every game, you see all the home games, but seeing him go to the Ontario Fury, the Empire Strikers, and having the career that he did, and just being the heart and the soul, and like Philly said, employee number one at the Empire Strikers, was just something to behold. And the guy's got legendary status here, not just in the indoor league, but in Southland soccer as a whole.
And look, to come at it from the history, the past, the life that Izzy Cisse led before he was able to get into soccer, right? Surviving a war that many of his friends didn't survive, not becoming a child soldier like many of his friends unfortunately became. And then all of a sudden in Los Angeles, you're lockering next to, is lockering a verb? I just made it one. You're lockering next
Noah
to
Webster's turning over in his grave scarf.
you're lockering next to David Beckham. You're in the same locker room as Kobe Jones, Landon Donovan, Robbie Keane, playing against all of the greats of those times too in Major League Soccer. I mean, it has to feel like an incredible ride, and the how fortunate we know that he said he's felt. But Philly, when I look at the back of his MASL Topps card, if he had one, right, we go all the way back to 2014 as a member of the Ontario Fury. Obviously, they became the Empire Strikers in 2022. When you have a player who is able to predate almost everybody, not just on the pitch, but in the front office. I mean, heck, it's even some of the ownership group had to get their key card from Izzy Cisse as they walked into the arena. Philly, what does it mean to have a player of that tenure, of that history, still representing your franchise 10, 11 years later?
I mean, first and foremost, it speaks volumes of the man's character and his commitment to professionalism, because not many people can have that kind of a career. If you look at his outdoor career and add it up to all the different places he was, it still is a fraction of what he played in the indoor game. And indoor soccer can be very brutal on the joints, but he continued to condition himself. He continued to be a professional. He always was a positive guy, a role model for a lot of the younger players. And to think he didn't even care. He didn't even come into this country to play soccer. It just so happened from Maryland. He was good. He ended up going to the IMG Academy. Guys, he had math class with Maria Sharapova. And then a couple of weeks after graduation, he sees a butt-naked David Beckham right next to him in the locker room in Carson, California. I mean, what a life he's led. He feels so fortunate about it. But, I mean, we're the ones that are fortunate to have gotten to see this young man do his thing and ride off into the sunset. But keep your eyes and ears peeled, because his coaching career is going to be the next great legacy that you're going to hear about. He's doing a lot of great things with youth soccer in the Inland Empire. So keep your eyes and ears on Coach Izzy Cisse.
See, I told you it would be our favorite part of the show, Izzy Cisse appreciation episode for sure. Let's bring on our buddy Rob Halone. He's back, co-host of the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast, to talk about some Galaxy. Now, Rob, we talked a little bit off air before this about the 2-2 draw in Seattle. But look, if this were 2024, for example, what we would be saying is, yes, that's exactly what the Galaxy have done all season. Maybe they found themselves in a compromising spot, but they found a way to claw back and earn points, especially difficult points on the road. This point would have looked pretty good late in the season last year. Let me ask you, knowing that they went down 2-0 and still able to claw back a point, does it still kind of resonate in the same way? How important are these results here towards the end of the season?
Yeah, not in the same way, but it does resonate. And the reason is because, you know, mathematically the Galaxy aren't eliminated, but for all intents and purposes, they've been eliminated for a couple of months now, right? So what do? You got to look forward to 2026. And so these matches are good testing grounds for young players like Harbor Miller, like an Elijah Winder, who didn't have the greatest starts of the season and has actually come on the past couple of games and had a couple starts here and there and is starting to kind of find himself within that lineup. And that's really what you want to see out of these players, or out of these depth pieces that the Galaxy, that Greg Vanney is kind of mixing in with some regular starters now, for them to go out and take their chance, so you can kind of figure out who your roster is going to be for next year, who is actually sticking around. These players are playing for contracts now and their jobs, and potentially a place on this lineup for next year.
Yeah, let me ask you about one of the players who debuted for Galaxy, made his MLS debut actually in this one, defender Nicholas Sullivan, who came up from Ventura County FC. He's a 23-year-old, so not super young by league standards, but definitely young enough. During 2025 regular season for Ventura County, he's been great. 6 goals and 6 assists from a defender's position. And look, he only came on in the 80th, right? So you get 10 minutes from him. You don't see a ton, but is this another player who you might be seeing more and more as the end of the season approaches?
I think so. You have on the right side already Mauricio Cuevas and Harbor Miller competing for that position, and on the left side you have John Nelson and Julian Aude. But both those players, again, who knows if they're going to be with the Galaxy next year? So you have to have another option in Nicholas Sullivan, who, you mentioned it, he's been great offensively, getting forward from that back position. You add that element to the Galaxy's attack, and they're going to have another outlet. This year they've certainly struggled for goals. They haven't had as much creation. You add an attacking minded defender like a Nicholas Sullivan, you're going to get a little bit more penetration on that wing. And then if you build it and standing with that winger on that side, you're going to be dangerous.
All right, I got one more question for you, and then I promise we'll let Philly and Tim talk again. But you're our Galaxy guy. We want to squeeze all the Galaxy life we can out of you while we got
sure. Get me.
All right, you got Miki Yamane and Maya Yoshida both scoring in this match.
Right.
Some history made. 2 Japanese players scoring in the same match for the first time ever. That's a big deal. But let me ask you, in terms of developing all this young talent, is that necessarily what you want to see? A couple of the old heads scoring on the back line, or does it not matter how it comes right now?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how it comes right now. And honestly, there's been a lot of criticism about both these players this year. There's been criticism about the captain, Maya Yoshida, saying that he's regressed. Miki Yamane has been kind of sharing that starting position with Mauricio Cuevas recently. And so you want to see these players who are your veteran players say, hey, no, we this is our position, they're going to fight for it. And you want that competition for places, especially if you're trying to bring up those young players, if you're trying to develop those young players. Who better to learn from than a Maya Yoshida if you're a Chris Rindolph, or you're a Nicholas Sullivan learning from one of these outside backs like a Miki Yamane, who is a great defender, great getting forward as well, and very technical on the ball. So, I mean, it's good that they're getting the contributions from the young guys, and then when needed, the defenders as well are stepping up. The veterans as well are stepping up.
All right, Philly, I got to ask you, their next match coming at home at Dignity Health Sports Park against the second best team in the East, and a team that has been coming for quite some time, FC Cincinnati. Philly, this match will be the 30th of the season for the Galaxy. Now, 4 points away from climbing out of that last place hole in the West, and 3 points back of Montreal from avoiding that wooden spoon. FC Cincinnati coming in town to Dignity Health Sports Park, Philly. How important is it that they come away with more than just a draw like they've had in these last couple of matches?
Extremely important, because they are on the verge. They are oh so close to climbing up the rankings. Look, they're second in the East. They've already clinched a playoff spot, but to get a win on the road against the Galaxy is a big deal. And I don't know what the odds are on this. I think maybe Vegas is drawing that FC Cincinnati does pick up a dub in this, but look at what they've done all season long. Evander, since leaving Portland, has been killing things. We might just see a Holyfield knockout of the Galaxy relatively early by FC Cincinnati, but they're one of the best teams in the league. I mean, they've been ever since, funny enough, a Philadelphia Union former Noonan made the jump over to FC Cincinnati. They were a joke that first season, and what they've done since then has been nothing short of incredible. I think it's going to be a highly entertaining game, but if I were a betting man, which learning as a youngin, betting on the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl, I am not, I would still put my money on FC Cincinnati in this case. They're too good of a team, but I do want to give some flowers to the Galaxy. That game against Seattle, to me, was very impressive. They showed grit and determination despite getting punched in the face quick by Ferreira and Musovski. And that's a positive sign. And then Novak Mitrovic asserting himself truly as the number one, 7 saves in that game. Like there's a lot of good things that are going on there. And I don't think this is such a hot take. I think they are going to be killing people. By they, I mean the Galaxy. I think they're going to be a much better squad next year. And we're all going to be sitting with egg on our face for all the things we said about them this season.
All right, Timmy K, I got to bring you on and ask you about this one. The rosters froze in Major League Soccer, and the Galaxy's roster froze without bringing Ricky Pooch onto the active roster. Timmy K, what does that mean for the Galaxy for the rest of the season?
It means that the Galaxy are smart. I've been talking about this. I mentioned it on Rob's podcast. you should not bring him back, because it would be a travesty to have him work back after 11 months to bring him back and then have him, get slide tackled by somebody with the studs up, and, he takes out his other knee. You don't want that guy on the pitch. I don't know if Rob does. I mean, the team does, because they want to put cheeks in seats, but I don't think you bring the guy back for a couple of games at the end of the season when the final nail is in the coffin and they're dropping them into the ground this weekend.
Well, Rob, Tim asked what you think. What do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like Tim said. I mean, there's so much that can go wrong, but at the crux of the argument is if he's actually ready. And we've been speaking to Greg pretty much weekly. Is he actually ready? Is he ready to go? And, just last week, Greg was letting us know that he is participating in full training, but not all the way. I mean, just a couple minutes at the beginning, he's doing a couple rondos, and then he is on his individual program. So medically, he's not even all the way in full training yet, which, with 4 games left, you don't have a lot of time to even bring him back. So this was a good decision. Hindsight's 2020. Had they known this, at the beginning of the year that he wasn't going to be available, maybe they could have done something different. But it is what it is. No Ricky in 2025. That just means 2026 is the Ricky Revenge Tour.
I love it. He'll be ready to go for sure. Rob, thank you so much for coming back on, talking a little.
Thank you, guys.
My friend. Once again, you can check out our friend Rob Halon over on the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast, in which he is one of the co-hosts. Rob, have a wonderful rest of your evening, my friend. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Later.
Absolutely. And it's time to talk some Orange County Soccer Club. And look, some big news coming out of OCSC. And we talked about this. I feel like this is kind of a rinse and repeat news cycle for OCSC. And I actually mean that in the best way, because it's a huge compliment that this club down in Orange County can keep bringing in youth talent the way that they do week in and week out. We talked about a month ago or so about defender Tyson Espy coming over, a big youth national team player on the United States scene. Well, this one's an even bigger coup, because you're grabbing him all the way from Columbus, Ohio, from Crew 2, Apollo Marinch, joining OCSC. Tim, this kid is 15 years old, considered one of the top forward prospects in all of the United States. And this just seems like the MO for Orange County Soccer Club. Bring on young talent, develop them, and then sell them off to Europe, where they could be super successful.
Yeah, and this is their pathway to Europe. They've been doing this for years, since the ownership change a few years ago. This was their MO, is to coordinate with European clubs, get the younger talent coming out of Southern California, coming out of hotbeds of soccer like Columbus, Ohio, because nobody wants to watch their college football team. And and the thing is, they're developing this talent so well that they're getting people fed to them. They don't always have to go out and hunt these younger players down. They're being fed, because a lot of these kids know that they're going to go to Orange County. They're going to get the right training. They've got an incredible facility down in Irvine. They've got 40 soccer fields down at that facility. So you can go down there and you can play soccer anytime you want. And then the Champ is a beautiful stadium with 5,500 people packing it in every week. So the coaching's there. They've got a pathway to Europe, so that they know that they're playing professional at such a young age, that they're going to go on and play professional at these higher leagues all across Europe and come back potentially to the U.S.
Yeah, they talk about this. I think it's their hashtag next wave pathway, right?
Yep.
That Orange County talks about year in and year out. Philly, he was still 14 when he debuted for Crew 2, the youngest player ever. And this is another thing that Orange County does, right? We talk about Kobe Henry, who eventually made his U.S. men's national team debut while still wearing an Orange County shirt. Milan Iloski, who we've seen have a real solid year this year, finally get a chance to play. What was the goalkeeper? Was it like Aaron Cervantes, I think, was the young goalkeeper that came from Orange County? Seeing these young players, I mean, if clubs like Ventura County Football Club and LAFC 2 can't keep these young players. It's pretty great for Orange County to keep getting these young guys.
I mean, of course. And I mean, that's the MO of, teams overseas too. You get them while they're young, you develop their game, and then you sell them off, like Tim said. I mean, it's good to be a feeder system, but it just also goes to show you the quality that the training staff has there. And the fact that the kids get to play and get some significant minutes is great. Not everybody is going to have the path paved to them to go professionally at a higher level in Europe, but at the very least, coming in and getting to train with some of these squads, it paves the way for them to maybe even get some really good Division I contract, some Division I deals in the NIL world. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, Orange County is, a special place, and they've had a lot of unbelievable players. They had that partnership in place with Rangers, where they were looking to move players back and forth. So, I mean, it speaks volumes to how the club is on a professional level, and to think like the fights that they would have to have with their northern neighbors, the LA Galaxy. I'm happy to see them do things like that, but obviously, I'd be a lot more happy to see them winning consistently, and they're going to have a tough game ahead of them. We haven't even really talked about their performance.
Yeah, look, Tim, they're going to take on San Antonio on Saturday, a team that, while they are 5 places ahead of Orange County in the standings, just 4 points ahead of Orange County in the standings. But I got to ask you, this 1-1 draw in Lexington, Orange County should count themselves lucky. Just 4 shots in the entire match, only 1 on target. Thank goodness it went in. But 0 corners in 90 minutes, 13 for Lexington. What happened to the offense out there in Kentucky?
Yeah, I think it's melting down. I think they've got this. That was their third straight match on the road. They're playing a bunch of these games on the East Coast. They're going out to Lexington, which is a shining star this year, just coming into the league and playing far better than anybody expected, like we mentioned a week ago. But I think what really is devastating Orange County is the fact that they've got so many injuries. Everybody talks about it, but when you have injuries on top of, Koa retired a few weeks ago, it kind of fell off the radar, but he was playing well. And I think just not having some of these guys putting the biscuit in the basket, you've got Zubac and he can't do everything. You got Muhammadu War and he can't do anything. I think those are the things that are lacking. And it's the lack of the depth behind them, that they only have 2-3 forwards to really to be able to score.
You ask where the offense was, I'll tell you where it was. It was hanging out on the Bourbon Trail. You ever been to Lexington, Kentucky? You know how many freaking distilleries there are between Louisville and Lexington? I've run a race around all of those, man. You would have lost me at Woodford Reserve the minute I stepped foot into the Bluegrass State.
And listen, another injury to 19-year-old Nicola Chiotta as well. He goes down on this one, so another tough one. Speaking of tough, Gunner's job was very, very difficult. Our creative director here on Soccer in 60, because LAFC played one heck of a game that forced him to redo the lineup. I just want to remind everybody, if you're seeing all of these players, Angel City doesn't seem to be represented on this one. So I want to remind everybody, it's our show's director, Gunner, that puts this together. You can direct all your fan mail and questions to one Gunner Burnt. Let's talk about these players, though, on the best 11. The best players this week in the Southland. Hugo Lloris in goal for his exploits during RSL, LAFC's match against RSL. Mickey Yamane and Maya Yoshida for Galaxy again at Seattle. Artem Smolyakov for his performance against San Jose, and Ryan Porteous for his performance for LAFC against RSL. 4 midfielders, Nico Ben-Alcazar for Orange County Soccer Club and his performance against Lexington, Matthew Chaudière and Timothy Tillman for LAFC's performance against RSL, and Diego Fagundes, who's inching closer to that 80-80 club, Galaxy at Seattle. And then up top, just like LAFC has been doing it for these last few matches, 2 up top, and it's Sonny with the captain's armband and Denis Bawanga. And for their contributions in both of the matches they played this week, Philly, we interviewed a fantastic young woman from Angel City, Sveindís Jónsdóttir, who was the only player to score for Angel City this week, an 88th minute hope bringer for Angel City. Let me ask you, where is she?
Once again, direct your animosity and hatred towards one Gunner Burnt. That's G-U-N. She deserved to be on this list. She scored her first goals. She was the Icelandic Women's Player of the Year. Look, her accolades speak for themselves. It means nothing for the best 11. But the fact that she did get her first ever NWSL goal and first one while wearing an Angel City kit, I would have to say it is a travesty that she is not on this list. Maybe she barely missed out because LAFC's offensive explosion. But, I mean, Jónsdóttir should have been on there. No question about it. Again, Gunnar Berndt.
Listen, so the fun part is Gunner's with us in the chat, and he's asking who we take out. I'll tell you who we take out. You can take out any one, and this is me saying it here, any one of those 7 LAFC players, not Sonny or Bawanga, that's for sure, but maybe you take out a Matthew Chonier, who, while he had a wonderful match, I think you could have played maybe a little bit more of a traditional 4-3-3 on our best 11, right? And getting in a player like Sveindís Jónsdóttir on the top line, I think that would be great. Tim, we talked about the 2 Japanese goal scorers this week for Galaxy, and we see them both on there, Miki Yamane and Maya Yoshida. Look, Rob didn't seem to think very highly of their performances this season, but what does it mean to have these grizzled veterans showing up again now on LA's best 11?
I do like them on the best 11 because they did both get a goal in the game. But I kind of have to talk about the Galaxy. And do you really want your 2 older statesman defenders being your scorers in a game? And I get it. You push them forward and things like that. But you've got the 2 guys that were getting roasted most of the game on 5-6 breakaways.
Right.
And yet they make the defenders as just because they put in the goal. I would have pulled one of those guys off, no offense, and I would have put Jónsdóttir and pushed, Matthew down a little bit and put Sveindís up on the top line.
Yeah, look, maybe you could argue that Porteous could have been taken out there. I mean, if the clean sheet remained, maybe there's an argument for him to be on there for the performance against RSL. But look, Jónsdóttir should have been on there. I don't have any knowledge of expletive words I could say in Icelandic, but I will have them for the next pod.
Hey, I'm even for taking another look at Angelina Anderson, who finally got the start again for Angel City. She played pretty well in goal. I mean, lots and lots to deal with there by the Courage. So, look, that's the fun part about Best 11, right? We get to debate this week in and week out. Want to remind everybody, however it is that you access our content, thank you. Please subscribe to the podcast on all your different podcast platforms. And, of course, the YouTube page. Head to the YouTubes, Soccer in 60. Hit that like, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications, whatever you got. Make sure that you become a part of the Soccer in 60 family. We want to grow the brand and we want you to come with us. We want to hear your thoughts on the best 11. How did Gunnar get it wrong in your mind? That's always fun.
More like how did Gunnar get it wrong again is the better question.
And don't forget, this has been the fastest paced soccer show in SoCal. Thank you once again for joining Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System, and we'll see you next